Welcome to the Living Lighter Facebook live show this morning. I'm your host, Sally Thibault. Today we're talking intermittent fasting, intuitive eating, and aging well. What's the connection? Can't wait to get into Good morning. Welcome. Happy Saturday to you all. Last Saturday in August. Can you honestly believe it? Just so first of spring during the week, as I just saw something on Instagram that said, can you believe it's September, almost September? It feels like March 16 years ago. It feels like forever since March. I hope you're all well this morning and that you can hear me and just let me know. I'm really excited to get into the show. It's a really big show today. What I've done is done as much research for you as I can about this whole concept of intermittent fasting and why I just really have embraced it and loved it and wanted to share that with you too. So let me know if it's all right. We're all good this morning. I'm having trouble seeing your comments. We've got an overlay that's come up on the show. There we go. Hopefully it will be okay. It's all good. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Louise. Good morning, Deborah. Yeah, louder, cool. Morning, Louise. Lovely to have you here, guys. And we are going to get into the show right now. As I said, I've got an overlay that's happening on my computer. That might help a little bit. So we'll see how we go today. Oh my goodness, technical difficulties. Here we go. So how has your week been? I'd love to know how you went. If anybody was on the show last week and we were talking about sleep, I'd love to know if anybody noticed any difference, if they changed anything, and how it went, and how it went. Sorry, I've got all sorts of difficult. I've got 3 screens open and they're all overlaying each other. Gosh, don't you love it? Don't you love it? All right, we're going to see how we go. I'm just going to see if this works. Just bear with me for a minute, guys. Something really strange going on. I cannot click on anything. It's all happening. I've had some trouble with my computer this week. We're not quite sure what's going on. There's a new update that came through and it's been very, very painful. So I'm not sure how we're going to go, but anyway, we'll keep on going. It doesn't seem that I can do anything at the moment. So I may have to just kind of wing it. It doesn't seem to want to let me into anything to put the banners up. Oh, here we go. Yes. Woohoo! Now I can click on it. Breathe, Sally. If you could see from where I'm at, there's like an overlay and it's just making things very difficult to see. So I want to get into this. Let's get straight into it. So we're talking about intermittent fasting. Let me know if you practice it, if it's something that you love. I've been embracing this now for about 3 years. And what happened was when, a couple of years ago, I made a decision that everything I wanted to do from here on in was about aging well. I wanted to look at my life, everything that I was doing, and embrace. Okay, if I'm in my, going into my 60s now, what does that look like, and how do I become 100% responsible for my own health and well-being? And so a lot of that's been that really deep inner work, consistently looking at that deep inner work. About 3 years ago, I came across this concept called intermittent fasting. Now, when I first came across it, I was not having a bar of it because to me, it was like restrictive eating and it was like dieting. And I had, spent my sort of most of my adult life trying to not do that anymore. And, I thought, oh, well, here we come with another concept that's all about, restricted eating and dieting. It was just a fancy new name. So I didn't want to have a bar of it for a while. And then one day I picked up, I think I watched something, I think it was Michael Mosley, and he was talking about this concept of intuitive eating. And in particular, he mentioned something about telomeres, which kind of pricked my ears up, which the telomeres are the small cat on the end of the DNA, and what you want as you age, those get shortened, and that causes the aging process. But we want to look at things that kind of lengthen it. So that's sort of where started my research into this. So today I wanted to share with you, because I get asked this question a lot: how does intuitive eating and intermittent fasting work? Because surely if you're listening to your hunger cues, how does that go across into intuitive eating, which is listening to your body? And I'm going to share with you at the end why that happens. But I wanted to just go through some of the research that I've come across over the last couple of years that's very interesting when it comes to the whole intermittent fasting. And one of the things that, it's been used therapeutically since the 5th century. Hippocrates believed it was an important natural part of a recovery process. So this isn't anything new. This has been around since the 5th century. And I think, there's a tendency when things become a bit of a trend that we think it's new, but it's not. And that when I first wrote the 2 and 20 principle, I was looking at all the principles that had either deep research or were not fads, but things that had been, part of our culture for hundreds of years, and which each of the strategies I put into that really were principles, not just thoughts and ideas. So intermittent fasting is not new. Native American Indians, fasting is practiced during vision quests when they'd go out and prior to the ceremonies, particularly for young men. So fasting was considered a practice for then. And of course, Western religions use intermittent fasting. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam have Ramadan every year. So it's part of this process, and Buddhism uses it as well. Monks use fasting, and with the belief that you become more spiritually aware. So it's, as I said, it's not a new concept. It's something that's been around for many years. But today the concept has been made popular by people such as Dr. Michael Mosley, which he wrote the book, The 5-2 Diet, and I think that was about 3 or 4 years ago. And a book I recently read by Professor David Sinclair called Lifespan. And it's a fascinating book, tons of science. Actually, David Sinclair is actually from Sydney, but he now lives for most of the time in the US. And he's done a lot of research into aging. Came across it actually, sort of tripped over it doing something else, and has now written this fabulous book called Lifespan. And he talks about intermittent fasting as being one of those things that really helps slow down the aging process. And I'm going to share with you why that happens. So I'm going to share with you some of the health benefits first of all. So blood levels of insulin drop significantly during fasting, which facilitates fat burning, all right, which is really important because we want to be building muscle, and if you're dieting, you're often losing muscle mass, and so it helps facilitate the fat burning. Another one, which I thought was really interesting, is the blood levels of growth hormones may increase as much as 5-fold, which again facilitates muscle gain. Now, why this is really important is because as we age, we lose muscle mass. So that's when, I'm working with clients and we're talking about exercise. I'm really focused on them doing strength work to build muscle mass, and that's simple strength work. In fact, you're better off doing strength work than anything else. And I know a lot of people just use aerobics, and those goes back to the days, just doing a 20-minute walk, which is great, but good for your cardiovascular system, but it's not really good for building muscle mass, which we need as we age. We need the strength. It induces important cellular repair process, so removes waste from the material for the cells. Now, this is really interesting. Short-term fasting actually increases your metabolic rate 3.6 to 14%. So that's another thing that happens, of course, as we age and we lose muscle mass, our metabolic rate drops. So your metabolism slows down as we get older. So we want to be doing things all the time to increase that metabolic rate. That's what's so critical. So boosts your metabolic rate, increases calorie out, and reduces the amount of food you eat, which is reducing the calories in. Interesting concept, hey? So interesting, but here's where I think it gets really interesting. In 2014, a review found that people who practiced intermittent fasting lost 4 to 7% of waist circumference. Now, this is where we're talking about belly fat. Now, this is the stuff that it's not the subcutaneous fat we're talking about, that sort of soft fat. You grab hold of the handlebars. It's the fat that wraps around the organs in the body. It's the hard muscle. It's the hard belly fat, the visceral fat that we really need to focus on to release that to help for your long-term health. And visceral fat, of course, not only is the food you eat, but when you're under stress. When you're under stress, the visceral fat, increase visceral fat in the body. It's been shown to reduce inflammation. Really important when it comes to aging. It can improve numerous factors, heart disease, such as blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammatory markers. Again, we're coming back to that inflammation thing. And so we want to be really looking at reducing your inflammation, reducing stress, watching what you eat. Now, here's the one that I love. This is where all the traffic lights, bing, 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 lights went on. It may increase the growth of new neurons and protect the brain from damage. This is what I found really, really fascinating, is that it can, some of the research is showing that it can increase the growth of new neurons. Now, don't we want to be increasing new neurons at the moment? Guard against, we have Alzheimer's in our family and on both sides. And so, my brain health is very, very important for me at the present time. So anything that helps to improve that. And I notice when I do intermittent fasting, I'll share what I do in a minute. But when I do that, I notice I'm thinking more clearly. It was really, really important. So, and of course, the last one, the big one, is that it may help increase your lifespan, and that's helping you live longer, and that's the work that David Sinclair has done. So there's a lot of work around that. But I guess the big question before we move on and before I share how I do it and the ways to do it, I'm going to share with you how this works with intuitive eating, because this is a question I get asked a lot. And this is all about step 3 on the intuitive eating aspect, and this is intentional eating. I'm just going to get up a slide for you to have a look at. So in the intuitive eating aspect, we talk about the 4-step methodology. So individual is you allowing yourself to eat anything you want. Intuitive is learning to ask the question. The third aspect is what we call intentional, and this is where you affirm. Now, there's 2 aspects of intentional eating. One is affirming the choices your body makes, but the other is aligning it with the intentions you set. So we all know, everybody on this call knows, that when you eat intentionally, when you create an intention, that your brain goes searching for ways to make that happen. Very important to be very clear on what you want, because your brain goes searching for ways to make that happen. Confirmation bias, frequency of illusion. Talked about many times on this show. So if you set an intention, for instance, that you want to age well, you want to release visceral fat, you want to build muscle mass, you want to increase energy, that's part of that intention. And tune into your body, your body is going to start looking, your brain and your body are going to start looking for ways to make that happen. So, for instance, my intention for this is to look at ways that I can age well. I'm thinking consistently about the choices I'm making to help me age well. So when it comes to making choices about food, that's the first thing that sort of is a question I'm asking myself. So I now allow myself to anything. What does my body really feel like? My intention is aging well. So what are the choices that I choose to make from that? I hope that makes sense. It's like when you set the intention and you align heart, mind, and body, and it all works together, the choices become easier. That's how it works. And then, of course, the informed part of it is acknowledging how it makes your body feel. So, for instance, when I first came across intermittent fasting, I was like, no, this is dieting. When I read the science, when I did the research, which I do everything right now, I don't take anything at face value anymore. Go down deep into the research, look at it, think about it, question how I'm going to put it in my life. It's got to align with that vision. And that's really critical. It's got to align with that vision. All right, let's move on to that. I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to go quickly to the comments. I hope I can read them. Morning, Denise. Morning, Louise. Thank you. Hi, Nicole. Louise, when I fast, I notice clarity of thought. Yeah, I do too, Louise. Jerry has a great, he says, it's like you give your body a chance to calm down and reset, and, just gives you that sense of, I don't know. And it's not I think for many people, they're scared of hunger. They get worried about it. And, but if you know that it's doing it, if you're making that choices for your longevity, your aging, making your body feel well, I think there's a different feeling about it. Nicole, my body had intuitively wanted intermittent fasting for so long, but I was always told to eat breakfast. Yes, bing, bing, hallelujah. I agree, Nicole. My daughter in particular, my youngest one, used to hate breakfast. She'd come and say, Mum, it makes me feel sick. I hate it. And I was working at the school at the time where she was at school, and I'd say, no child of mine is going to school without breakfast. And she said, I don't like it. I like to eat around about 11 o'clock. Her body naturally was telling her that. And I must admit, I wasn't a big person for breakfast. I didn't particularly like it. I ate it because I thought it was good for me. That's it. I ate it because I thought it was good for me. And isn't that funny how we do things for that? Good morning, Shithrani. Nice to have you here. Yeah, Nicole, me too. Exactly. I did it because breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That's what we were told. All of this stuff is starting to change now. We're starting to look, you know what? There is another way. And perhaps that narrative we've been told all this time is different. Now, this is different for growing children. For growing children, that's different. But we also have to listen to them, because children have naturally unintuitive eating. Now, yes, you do have to sort of step in some stage. They can't have, Cocoa Pops for breakfast, but it's a way of making it do that. Yeah. Deborah, my daughter still doesn't have breakfast. I learnt not to argue. Yeah, our mum thing, isn't it? Like our mum thing had to get out of the way. Louise, me too, Nicole. Ivans hated breakfast, forced myself to eat it because everybody said I must eat it. There it is. Oh, isn't this incredible? I mean, when you think now about the whole concept of intuitive eating and trusting in our own bodies and saying, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense for me, and then questioning that, it's quite a different scenario, isn't it? Like, it's quite a different scenario. And that's why I love this whole concept of intuitive eating, because what it does, it's getting you back to trusting in yourself. And if there's anything we are learning out of 2020, challenge and question everything. Do not take the narrative. Just because somebody says it doesn't make it real. And I think this is about what 2020 is all about. Just because somebody says it doesn't make it real. And we have to understand that. I honestly believe that that's what 2020 is all about. It's about learning to trust in our own intuition. It's about asking questions. It's about saying, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right for me. This isn't making sense. I'm trusting, and everybody on this call is a wise woman. Every single person on this call is a wise woman. And when that light goes on, and the connection between the mind, the body, and the heart, and you're going, wait a minute, I don't know. And exactly what you've all been talking about today. When it comes to something simple, like we were told to eat breakfast, even though we didn't like it, but we were told it was good for us. Interesting concept, isn't it? And it's not for all people, but for many people, it's the way to do it. It's the way it is. Where are we going here? Interesting. Nicole, it's funny, if I do eat breakfast, then I can't have lunch. Interesting. It's the way it happens, Okay, I'm going to share with you some concepts of intuitive eating in a minute. So, and again, much of it is to really listen to your body and how it works for you. Yeah, we learned not to trust our own knowing, Louise. I know, right? We learned how to trust our own knowing. Good morning, Christine. I love my breakfast. Yeah, so I'm going to share with you some concepts about it. And it's what works for you. And again, it's not about, one size fits all model. It really is about trusting in your intuition and knowing what works for you. So let me see. Okay, so we're going to talk about the right way and the wrong way to do intermittent fasting. Again, this is really up to you. The different concepts that I'm going to talk about. So there's a 12-12, which Dr. Volter, V-A-L-T-E-R, Longo talks about. He talks about 12-12. So going 12 hours, he likes that concept. 16-8, which is what David Sinclair talks about, and I actually really that's the one I like. I find I'm better, and that's skipping breakfast. Or what they talk about is you can go sort of breakfast, lunch, and not have dinner. You go breakfast, lunch, not have dinner. And then there's a 24-hour fasting twice a week. I can't. That's beyond me. I tried it once, and I didn't. I couldn't do it. It's not comfortable for me. I don't like it. But I know others do it, and I know there's a woman in the US that really promotes, and she's got a great business promoting fasting, at least 1 day a week, total fasting. It's just not for me. I don't like it. It impacts on my blood sugar levels, and I get really jittery and horrible and cranky and not a very nice person to live with. So I don't like it. All right. So must include plenty of water, herb teas, or black coffee. Limit the coffee because of the caffeine, but water you must, if you are choosing to intermittent fast, it must be plenty of water. Plenty of water, herb teas, anything. You really got to be flushing out that system. So I used to do intermittent fasting twice a week. I'd choose a Monday and a Thursday. I now do it 5 times a week. So most weeks I do it. Most weekdays I do it. But I have to be very, 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 very mindful of the water I'm drinking. So it's important that you are honoring your body. I know in Ramadan, their concept with fasting is nothing, like no water, no food for the whole time they're fasting. Preferably, I don't think that's very healthy, but that's just, I'm going to argue with, a religious concept. But to me, it's about drinking plenty of water, flushing it out, making sure that it's just, that water base. Important to end the fast with a protein. So a salad with chicken or fish or meat, something with a high protein level, a protein smoothie, which I really enjoy, to ensure that your blood sugar levels don't spike. Intermittent fasting is not an excuse to eat anything you want. I just want to say that. I shouldn't say that. Just to eat, simple carbohydrates, chocolate, muffins, whatever. That when you're coming out of the fast, that you are actually thinking about putting really good food back into your body. It's like, I think I've spent this time kind of caring for my body, allowing all these wonderful cellular processes to happen. Why would I want to not care for it and put good food back into it? I'm not going to eat the food that could wreck my body in some way. Just not going to do that. So let's look at some of these. Where are we, Louise? Here. jingles, media advertising, brainwashing collectively. Yeah, that's right. Important meal of the day, Nutri-Grain. Oh my God. If you check the sugar content in Nutri-Grain, holy cow. And that, people don't check them. You got to read the labels on the back. We're sending these kids off to school with so much sugar, makes it really difficult. And, I worked in a school. So the kids, if their kids are having, breakfast at say 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe 6:30, they're not eating again till 11 o'clock for that first break, 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's a long time. They're having sugary cereals. No wonder they have behavioral issues. Wow. 16.8, Nicole. Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my natural state too. Yeah, Louise, same for me. 16.8 or 18.6. Oh, that's interesting. My natural point. Yeah, I tend to see, so we finish dinner at 7. Usually we try 7:30. By 11:30, I'm ready for something. Like I think I really need something right now. And I find that if I don't have a protein smoothie at that point, I need something quickly. I tend to wane. So I often have a protein smoothie, and then maybe about 1 o'clock or 1:30, I'll have some something light for lunch, and then just normal things for dinner. What I noticed, I think when we were doing the sleep stuff last week, remember I was talking about sleep, and what I noticed, we have carbohydrate at night. We had pasta a couple of nights. I didn't sleep as well. So again, this is all, this kind of measuring where how well I'm sleeping, what's working, my energy levels during the day. That's what we're looking for in all of this. Okay, you want to keep your energy levels high. You want to keep your clarity high. Your brain, especially if you're working with you're like me and you're a morning person. I really value my energy levels. Yeah, Nicole, have a smoothie most times. Yeah, exactly. Me too. Started adding cherries. Remember last week we talked about cherries? I found sour cherries at Coles, but there was tons of sugar in them. So we ended up just buying some frozen cherries, and I've been throwing those into the smoothies. And a couple of days a week. It's quite nice, actually. And I'm noticing that they're a nice thing to add. Nutri-Grain, extra protein is extra gluten. Yeah, not a good thing. It's not a good thing. All right, let's do. I want to share a tapping with you. Again, if you would love to talk a little bit more about how to do intuitive eating, how to implement intermittent fasting, help release that weight that no longer serves you, but first emotionally and then physically. Looking for a strategy session, and let's see how we go with that. I'd love to help you do that. As I said, I am passionate about aging well, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Clicking, oh, what a morning, and I've still got 2 screens happening here, so I'm a bit, it seems to be okay from your end, which is fantastic. It's just I've got all these different screens showing up. Right, I want to do a tapping on this. I want to do a trusting my body tapping. Really essential right now. As I mentioned, I think 2020, we have to be in a state where we are trusting our intuition. We are questioning the narrative. And to me, food is the number one. If you can't get this right, it's like the last frontier. Isn't it really? If you can't get this one thing right about food and your body and trusting your intuition, then really, what's the point? We are in charge of our own health, and or at least how we respond to it, and that's what I'm really passionate about now. Is that I'm questioning all the time now. What's really going on, and as I said, that that ha when it came to intermittent fasting was like, why did I buy into that? When I even didn't like breakfast. All right, let's go on to some tapping, shall we? About trusting my body. All right, I want you just to get into a measure on a scale of 1 to 10. How much do you actually trust your body to make decisions for you? Measure on a scale of 1 to 10. See if you can find times when that was told you didn't know what you're talking about, where you handed your power over, where you did things like ate breakfast even though you didn't feel good. All right, tap with me. Even though so many times in the past I have not trusted my body. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though sometimes I forget that my body knows what's right for me. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though sometimes I let stress and overwhelm rule my choices. And it's hard to trust my body. I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Sometimes it's hard to trust my body. Other things get in the way. I've been let down in the past by listening to others. Sometimes it's fearful to trust my body. What if I get it wrong? It's hard to get out of my head sometimes. How can I trust my body? I'm not sure I can trust my body. There's so much information. How do I know if I'm right? I'm not sure I can actually trust my body. What if the messages are so confusing? I don't know if I can do this. I'd love to totally trust my body. But what if I'm wrong? I'm not sure I can trust my body. Okay, just take a deep breath and let it go. So here's where you want to go back and find all those times in the past where you've not trusted your intuition, or you've done something and it turned out wrong, and you got quite down on yourself. So you want to go find all of those times when you've not trusted yourself. I just had a memory pop up then, which is really interesting. Tap on that later. All right, let's do a quick reframe round to finish, shall we? We shall, as a friend of mine always says. Even though there's been times in the past I haven't trusted my body, I choose to do it now. Even though there's been times in my past I haven't trusted my intuition, I choose to do it from now on in. Even though sometimes it gets confusing and overwhelming. Everybody's got an opinion. I choose to honor and trust my intuition. I choose to honor and trust my intuition. I choose to honor my body. I choose to trust in my own innate wisdom. I forgive myself for all the times I've not trusted my body. I choose to now trust in my body. I choose to trust in my innate wisdom. I now make all choices honoring myself. I choose to trust and honor my body. Okay, just take a deep breath and let it go. All right, I'm just hopping to the comments and just have it one more time from Christine. I make an acai smoothie with cherries too and have some birch muesli. So yummy. Oh, yum, Christine. That sounds delicious. Absolutely delicious. Oh, very nice. Well done. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Let me know how you go. How did that tapping session go? I just wanted to have a quick check in with you all before we go today. how you went with that tapping. Just before we finish, just want to share a really, really interesting piece of research that came up for a show next week. I'm doing another show next week. A show where they were talking about research that they were sharing this week about the impact of mindfulness and the releasing of belly fat in particular. Really interesting. A lot of the work we've all done, and it's a research study from 2015, I think. But I'm going to share this next week. Really interesting stuff that is now the narrative is changing, and it's so good to see. Where are we? Nicole, memory of sent to Jenny Craig at 16. Wow, the damage that those organizations have done is incredible. I know, Nicole, so many women I work with are trying to undo that. 16. I know, it's a whole thing. Parents do what we all do as parents, don't we, really? We do what we do with the knowledge we have at the time. I think you're doing the right thing, but the damage is incredible. Same with Weight Watchers. Sending your little ones to Weight Watchers. I don't think they do what they used to do. Those women are now in their 50s and 60s and still trying to do it. You're welcome, Deborah. You're welcome. All right, my lovely friends, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be brilliant this week. I hope this has helped. Remember, reach out if you would like a strategy session to see if and how I can help you live lighter. See you soon. Bye for now.